Have you ever had a conversation with a friend or a family member when you felt like no matter what you said, they just didn't get you? Or maybe you were the one listening, but you felt like you couldn't break through to understand them. So today we're diving into Carl Rogers' approach, and I'm going to suggest you principles that you can use in your everyday life to create deeper connections. Carl Rogers was one of the pioneers in psychology, and his approach was called person-centered therapy. It's based on a humanistic view of people. What does this mean? In the humanistic view, people aren't seen as broken or flawed. Instead, they're seen as inherently good, with an incredible capacity for growth. So the idea is that the person has the potential to live a fulfilling and meaningful life if they're given the right conditions to grow. So the person already has everything that they need to live a meaningful life. They just need a good atmosphere or good conditions to see all these potential in themselves and then act according to them. So what were those conditions according to Rogers? In therapy, he believed that the relationship, with the emphasis on relationship, between the therapist and the client was everything. He saw therapy as a space where the client could be fully themselves, without the fear of judgment or rejection. And it was the therapist's job to create an environment of trust, openness, and unconditional positive regard. So it means that the content in the conversation between the therapist and the client was less important. Much more important, but much more important was the relationship between the therapist and the client and how the client felt in this therapy setting. So let's break down the key principles from Rogers' approach to see how they can also help us to communicate better and help people to work through a maybe difficult phase of their life. So the first one is unconditional positive regard. Unconditional positive regard means accepting someone fully for who they are, without any judgment, without telling them to change in a certain aspect of their life. But it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything they say or do. It does mean that you're committed to seeing them in the best way that you can see them, no matter what. So think about how powerful this can be in everyday conversations. For example, there's often a situation where somebody might tell you that they made a mistake or they're dealing with something very difficult, and they might already be judging themselves. A lot of times we're judging ourselves. So these people are already judging themselves because they realize that they did something wrong or a mistake. So next time you're in a conversation with someone, instead of jumping straight away to conclusions and to advice that you want to give them, practice just to accept them where they are at. Show them that you're there to listen without any judgment, and you're also not there to be the teacher to tell them what to do and what is right or wrong. So you're simply there listening. The second one is empathy. Empathy is one of Rogers' most important concepts, and it's probably one of the hardest to get right, because it doesn't mean only to listen and hear someone's words, but it's really about trying to feel what they are feeling. So you're putting yourself in the perspective from the other person. And the key here is to listen very deeply, because most of us, when we listen, yes, we listen, we get the information, but we're too much in our head. We're already thinking about how to respond, what to say. Like we like to respond directly and to have like a very vivid discussion, but sometimes it's only about listening and not giving advice. Real empathy really means to feel what the person experiences right now. For example, if somebody is telling you that they experience a lot of stress right now at their work, so instead of saying, yes, you can do yoga lessons and you can do breath work and you can do a lot of mindful practices, you can just stay with this person and say something like, it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed right now. at your work. And this is not only showing the other person that you're paying attention, but it also feels like you really understand them. So empathy, it's not about fixing problems, it's about being there for the person as they navigate through their emotions. And the third one is congruence or authenticity. Rogers believed that to truly connect with someone, you need to be real. You cannot play a role. And this is what he called congruence. It means being authentic in the way that you communicate. So not thinking one thing and communicating something else. If you're putting on a front or pretending to feel one way, but you're actually feeling another way, people will sense that. People are very good at realizing if you're authentic or not. And if you're not authentic, this creates a lot of distance in the conversation. So being congruent doesn't mean you have to share every thought or feeling that you have and to be fully transparent, but it does mean that things that you say need to be honest. If a conversation is hard for you, it's okay to say that. You can say that. For me, it's also not easy now to listen to what you're saying. And if you don't know what to say at all, it's also okay to admit that too and to say, okay, I don't know how to react right now. It's only important that you're honest. If somebody's going through something hard right now and he's telling you about it, you shouldn't pretend that you know all the answers and that you can do it better. You can just say something like, I don't exactly know what to say, but I'm here for you and I'm here to listen and I want to help you in any way that I can. So that honesty, that authenticity builds the trust and makes the other person feel safe to open up.